Money, power, influence. This is 10 families who secretly control the world. Number 10. Slim. Between 2010 and 2013, Carlos Slim Helú was patriarch of the richest family in the world. Now at age 76, Carlos's wealth still stands at a heady $50 billion. He consolidated his fortune through Grupo Carso, a conglomerate he set up that owns shares in an estimated 40% of companies on the Mexican Stock Exchange. His worth works out at 7% of Mexico's GDP. Proportionally translated to the USA, he'd be a trillionaire. He's even the largest shareholder in the New York Times. Donald Trump blamed him for his recent sexual assault scandal that appeared in the paper, citing a global conspiracy that Slim was behind, which was designed to influence the US election. Slim himself was a donor to the Clinton campaign. Slim is careful with his money. He refrains from yachts and mansions dotted around the world. He has been accused of taking advantage of state privatization, running monopolies, and artificially inflating prices, making living difficult. Phone charges are up to 10 times more expensive in Mexico than comparable developing countries. And the average Mexican can't get through the day without every aspect of their life being under the control of Slim's family. This has given rise to the country's popular nickname, Slimlandia. Number 9. DuPont. The DuPonts have a sprawling network of 3,500 family members worth a combined total of $14 billion. They have remained one of America's richest families for over 100 years after E.I. DuPont fled the French Revolution and started a gunpowder company. Over time, DuPont branched out into other chemicals and explosives, employing engineers who invented Kevlar, nylon, and Teflon. Today, as they are so numerous, the DuPonts do not directly control the business, although they still hold many shares. How have they used their power? Well, a DuPont has attempted to gain control of the White House. Pete DuPont IV, who was governor of Delaware, ran for president in the Republican primaries in 1988. And remember that they invented Teflon? Well, they also hid the fact that it was toxic, and in 2016 was sued to the tune of $1.6 million for inflicting kidney cancer on people. Teflon traces are found in the blood of 98% of Americans. Then there's heir Robert Richards, who pleaded guilty to raping his own 3-year-old daughter. Using his money and influence, he managed to evade any jail time, despite previously being accused of molesting his son as well. He now lives comfortably off his trust fund in 2 homes. Number 8. Ferrero. On Valentine's Day in 2015, Michelle Ferrero passed away in Monte Carlo, leaving behind $23 billion and an Italian chocolate empire. The family owned Ferrero Rocher, Kinder, Tic Tacs, and, most deliciously, Nutella. Michelle was the 3rd member of the family to own the business, and he made his son CEOs in the late 80s. He was known as one of Europe's richest and most secretive tycoons, and was famously cagey about his influence. And in 2012, his family were accused of siphoning millions out of foreign banks in fake payments for hazelnuts. Strangely, the family would jet to the Lourdes Shrine yearly in a religious effort to boost hazelnut growth. Ferrero was also part of the shadowy Salotto Buono, an Italian historical club known for backroom dealings that allowed industry to collude. The company was accused of pandering to Nazism recently in a German advertising campaign that ran with the slogan, "Germany votes white, and yes, white can," although they claimed it was innocently about white chocolate. Number 7. Bush. Prescott Bush, father of George Bush Sr. and grandfather of George W. Bush, has been accused of extensive scheming over the years. Prescott, along with his kin, was a member of the notorious Skull and Bones secret society at Yale. In 1933, he conspired to stage a military coup to overthrow Roosevelt's presidency and replace it with a regime that would instill the values of Hitler and Mussolini. Part of the Bush family wealth actually comes from trading with Nazi organizations during the Second World War. The Guardian discovered via National Archives that Prescott's German assets were eventually seized in 1942. In the wake of 9/11, the Bush administration also covered up the extent of the Saudi kingdom's involvement. Jonathan Bush financed his nephew's run for the White House and found investors for his first oil project in the area, which could explain the leniency. Number 6. Astor. Members of the Astor family, which included America's first millionaire, went on to build hotels, become British politicians, die on the Titanic, edit newspapers, and own a chunk of Manhattan. The original family fortune was worth $100 billion, and, like many on this list, they were accused of harboring sympathy for the Nazis. Using the Observer newspaper in the UK, David Astor successfully pushed for the abolishment of the death penalty, the decolonization of Africa, and tolerance of homosexuality. In almost all cases, laws were passed that furthered his liberal agenda. Today, the Astors are spread out across the world in positions of influence. Ex-Prime Minister David Cameron counts the Astors as in-laws, who helped him secure a job early in his career. A further 2 Astors are currently lords in the British Parliament. Number 5. Tata. As of 2016, the Indian Tata family's multinational conglomerate is worth over $100 billion and employs 660,000 people across the world. Ratan Tata is the current man in charge, and the 6th successive Tata to oversee the company in its 150-year history. Although they are known primarily for steel manufacturing, it was their tea company in Assam that got them into hot water. A number of taped conversations revealed that the Tata family was involved in a power play, pitting the central Indian government against the regional government of Assam. The company was also fined nearly $1 billion this year by a US grand jury for stealing trade secrets and data from Epic Systems, an American software company that is used for over half the country's medical data. The Tatas now spend nearly $1 million every year lobbying in the USA on issues such as immigration of workers and India-US relations. Number 4. Walton. The Waltons have been branded the greediest family in the world by Gawker. Their name may give you a hint that they own the world's largest retailer, Walmart. As a result, they're worth around $130 billion, way more than the bottom 40% of Americans. Masters of tax manipulation, according to Bloomberg News, Walmart ranks among the top political donors since 1989, pushing to control tax and labor law. In 2014, the Labor Board claimed that Walmart had violated labor laws in 14 states, implicating over 60 members of staff. They have spent over $80 million since the turn of the century, partly funding campaigns for offices of sympathetic candidates. Whatever it is, it's working. Since the recession of 2007, Americans have seen a 40% drop in wealth, yet the Waltons have managed to increase their hoard by 96%, in part by $7.8 billion in annual government subsidies and tax breaks. Number 3. Rockefeller. Even today, the Rockefellers are super wealthy, with $11 billion spread out between 174 family members. J.D. Rockefeller began it all with the Standard Oil Company that got too big for the government and was split up into Chevron, BP, and ExxonMobil. David Rockefeller, ex-head of JP Morgan Chase, was ever present at the Bilderberg conferences. Oddly, he turned down jobs as Secretary of the Treasury and Chairman of the Federal Reserve. But maybe that would have gotten in the way of his close and controversial relationship with the Shah of Iran. In 1975, he met a young Margaret Thatcher and fell in love with her steely resolve. He ferried her around in limousines, meeting presidents, spy chiefs, and bankers. 4 years later, she was the first female Prime Minister of Britain. She instituted questionable policy reforms that ushered in a new inequality in capitalism, working to the advantage of those already with big money, like the Rockefellers. Number 2. Windsor. The Windsor family has been established at the throne of Great Britain for almost 100 years, and all political decisions must still be rubber-stamped into law by the monarch. The royal family's real influence is much more insidious than this, though. Purported backroom conversations, lobbying, and pressure being applied by members of the royal family are just some potential examples. Look at the leaked letters of Prince Charles, which requested that the NHS keep providing homeopathy treatment, as well as the advice Tony Blair received on military strategy. Normally, we don't hear of their inner dealings, though. They have sovereign control of the royal archives, which contain their journals and letters, some of which is hidden from the general public. This allows them to operate unscrutinized, but also lets conspiracy theories flourish. Did they collaborate with the Nazis? Were they responsible for Diana's death? Are they reptoids hell-bent on world domination? Number 1. Rothschild. The Rothschild Empire began in 18th century Germany, where Meyer Amschel Rothschild worked in banking. Meyer managed to consolidate his wealth and engaged in international trading, installing his 5 sons in 5 major cities across Europe. Their financial domination grew to proportions never before seen, making them still the richest family to ever live. The control afforded by vast private wealth blurred into conspiracy theories rife with anti-Semitism. Accusations raged that they fund both sides in wars, finance the Holocaust, and exert control over central banks across the world. Their supposed motivation is the establishment of a new world order, a single global government that has totalitarian control. It has been asserted by some that they own 80% of the world's wealth, while others claim that they have a net worth of $500 trillion. However, given that total global wealth was estimated to be $250 trillion in 2015, this does not hold up by any standards. Today, however, there are many family members, and the centralized Rothschild Group does operate banking ventures in 57 cities, as well as advising the Queen personally. If you want to learn more about the dark world of conspiracy theories, be sure to head over to All Time Conspiracies, where they have made a video about the top 10 greatest conspiracies of all time.